Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Coffee, where in today's episode, we have got confirmation that Leia will be training Rey as a Jedi. We will take a look at the confirmation Disney gave us, and then we will dive into the Jedi Paxos leaks to see the scenes that Leia and Rey will be sharing together. That's today here on Star Wars Coffee.
I have spoken.
Hello there to all of the returning subscribers, but if you're new to the channel and you're just finding me for the first time, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video and any other video from the channel that you check out, and be sure to hit that notification bell so that the bell is completely filled in, as this is the way you will never miss a new video the second it goes live.
Do it.
With that out of the way, Disney held their The Rise of Skywalker press conference a couple of days ago, and there were some of the costumes on display, and one of those costumes was Leia's. It was right next to Poe's costume, and on it there was a description. At first, there was speculation as to what it said, and then we got a high-quality image that showed us exactly what it said, confirming that Leia was indeed going to be training Rey as a Jedi, saying the following. Leia Organa, costume designer Michael Kaplan. General Leia Organa continues to lead the heroic resistance, building back a fighting force after having suffered costly setbacks. Leia is also training Rey in the ways of the Force, for the galaxy still has a need of a Jedi. And you may be thinking to yourself, she's training Rey in the ways of the Force. That doesn't necessarily mean she's training her as a Jedi. Well, that would work if there was no "for the galaxy still has need of a Jedi." This just demonstrably ruins that argument for the fact that the galaxy still has a need for a Jedi. Ergo, training Rey in the ways of the Force must mean she's training her as a Jedi. Now we are going to throw out a spoiler warning for anybody who doesn't want to know anything further about The Rise of Skywalker, as there will be plot leaks from The Rise of Skywalker in this video. If you know anything about the plot leaks from Jedi Paxos making Star Wars already, you know that there was a scene initially where we got a flashback at the beginning of the film where Luke and Leia were going to be doing their Jedi training. Luke was going to be training Leia as a Jedi, and the reason that she stopped was because she found out that she was pregnant with Kylo Ren, or at the point Ben Solo, and so she decided to stop training as a Jedi. And it's some rumors that Luke may have just be telling Rey about this during his appearance to Rey, and there's also some speculation that this may actually just be a flashback still involved in the film during that point while Luke's doing his voiceover on it. So we'll have to wait for sure to see what that holds. But with that being said, let's dive into these Jedi Paxos leaks and talk about exactly where these scenes of Leia training Rey as a Jedi lie. So we're going to start off with Act 1 on the Resistance jungle base. Quote, Leia has picked up where her brother left off and has been helping Rey learn the ways of the Jedi. Rey is first seen doing some meditative/mental force exercises, but is struggling with it. Reshoots have apparently amended Rey's mental training to be focused more around trying to communicate with past Jedi who have become one with the Force. In frustration, she asks Leia if she can do a physical training course instead. This is what we see Rey doing in the jungle forest in many of the TV spots. It appears that Rey has more physical fortitude than she does mental strength. Reshoots have added a greater sense of anger in Rey during her physical training. In her anger, she cuts down a tree, which falls on BB-8 and damages him. After her training, she tries to communicate with Luke, asking him to appear to her, but nothing happens. Rey gives her lightsaber to Leia, feeling that she is undeserving of it. The reasoning why this has added seems to establish Rey struggling with her anger and inability to communicate with the Jedi from the past, making her successes in the end of the film and those struggles more impactful. So that's what we have for Act 1. We only get that one scene. Obviously, this makes sense that we only have a certain amount of scenes in it, very minimal, because we're reusing Leia scenes from The Force Awakens and partially from The Last Jedi. So it makes sense that that's why we're seeing this being built around that. Obviously, this was originally supposed to be Takodana wherever Leia is, so it makes sense that it's just the Resistance jungle base and we have no official planet name for it. Because it was originally shot and supposed to be Takodana, I would maybe expect a planet name post-movie, depending on where they think it's coming from. Okay, so Act 2 now. Quote, off in another part of the galaxy, while Kylo Ren and Rey clash sabers, a bright light in the universe begins to fade. Leia is dying. Before her death, we hear the voice of a familiar hero come to bid her farewell and pass on one last bit of knowledge. Evidently, Luke's appearance to Leia before her death has been cut out. I'm told that this was just a voiceover, so it wasn't difficult to do. But it's gone at the moment all the same. Although there doesn't seem to be any sign of Luke during Leia's death, I'm told that R2 is with her in her final moments. This scene and Rey vs. Kylo's fight on the Death Star are cut back and forth. Obviously this makes sense too, as we have to use the footage again that we already have of Carrie Fisher's final performance, and it makes sense that this is going to be a voiceover appearance because obviously Carrie Fisher wasn't there to interact with Mark Hamill and shoot the scene, so the voiceover makes perfect sense. One thing I forgot to mention on the last part of Act 1 is there's no explanation for Rey trying to communicate with Jedi from the past. So I'm assuming at one point we're going to see Rey reading some of the sacred Jedi text that she took from the Force tree on Act 2 before Yoda set it ablaze. And I would expect this to be the reason that she's trying to do all of these things and getting frustrated with the mental exercises, because she's not having that success. She knows what to expect a result of, and she's not able to achieve it, and that is why she's finding it much more harder and finding it a lot more difficult with the mental exercises than the physical course. So, more back to Act 2 with Luke appearing to Rey now, rather. Quote, the ghost of Luke Skywalker appears to Rey holding the weapon she just discarded. Luke's conversation with Rey is said to be encouraging, yet realistically grim in tone. Luke knows firsthand what it's like to face Palpatine and that it's not an easy task. Rey must confront Palpatine in the same way that Luke once had to confront Vader. Luke encourages Rey by telling her of the faith Leia had in her. She saw the potential within her and hoped that Rey would be able to restore balance to the Force once more, just as Anakin once did. Rey supposedly asks to speak to Leia at one point, but Luke responds by telling her that Leia has not yet completed her training and he cannot yet feel her distinctive consciousness within the Force. I'm also being told that one change that has come about is that it's made clear that Luke and Leia both knew of Rey's heritage. This knowledge contributed to Luke's hesitancy to train her, but in the end it's about your heart and not your genes that really matter. The former opening flashback of the film has been moved here. We are no longer going to see it happen, but instead have the story of Leia's last day of training told to us by Luke. A source tells me that it's stated in this scene that Leia gave up the path of becoming a Jedi because she had a vision that her child would die and she sought to prevent that. Luke apparently goes on to say that Rey inspired Leia to pick up the path of the Jedi once again and that now 1,000 generations live in her. By the end of the conversation, Rey is re-energized for the seemingly insurmountable task that lies ahead of her and agrees to leave the island. Having destroyed the ship she used to come to Ahch-To, Luke raises his own X-Wing, previously seen submerged in the coves of the island of Ahch-To, to allow Rey to go and face Palpatine. In addition to the starfighter, Luke gifts Rey with the lightsaber that once belonged to Leia. Apparently, Luke kept Leia's lightsaber with his personal effects, and he tells and shows Rey where to get it. So, this scene is more about Luke and Rey's interaction, but the whole point of the interaction is to explain to Rey that there was definitely some faith Leia had in her, and that this is supposed to be a training moment from Leia indirectly, right? So Rey asks to speak to Leia, and Luke tells her that she has not yet completed her training, that he's unable to feel his distinctive consciousness within the Force. Lucasfilm and J.J. Abrams are going to have a lot of explaining to do on that one, because she's already passed at this point. So how is it that if she wasn't able to complete the training at one point, that she's still able to appear? Apparently it must be like Qui-Gon, where he was able to communicate without actually showing up in his Force Ghost form. So that's the closest thing I can think of in canon that actually is making sense to how this is supposed to actually work. Because Force Ghosts in itself, all we know is that they have to find their distinctive consciousness, and somehow some of them can be a Force Ghost and some of them are just voices. So that's yet to be a good concrete canon answer. However, this whole scenes, we have these 3 scenes really. We have the one at the beginning in Act 1 with the jungle base, we have one where Leia is dying, and then we have the scene where Luke and Rey encounter about Leia. And then obviously there's going to be the final scene where Rey is knocked out by Palpatine. Rey and Kylo are both on the ground as Palpatine is electrocuting the Resistance fleet, starving them in mid-air and dead space, and Leia tells Rey to rise, hence the rise of Skywalker, and she gets up. And that with the power of all of the previous generations of Jedi aiding Rey, she's able to defeat Palpatine. So again, Leia's whole arc and presence in this film is really going to be able to be felt throughout the whole course of the film by the character journey of Rey and with the appearance of Luke. Just continuous nods back to the big 3. Especially Carrie Fisher, as this was supposed to be her arc. Remember, since The Force Awakens, we've gotten those interviews where 7 was supposed to be Harrison Ford's film, 8 was supposed to be Mark Hamill's film, and 9 was supposed to be Carrie Fisher's film. That was supposed to be their big moment, 1 episode per member of the big 3, and now that Carrie Fisher has passed, they've been able to take all of that footage from The Force Awakens, and maybe some from The Last Jedi. That hasn't officially been confirmed, but it hasn't been completely debunked, that they were able to put enough of those scenes together to fit into the story well enough, obviously to use, as Carrie Fisher's last film appearance will be in The Rise of Skywalker. So that wraps things up for me here in this video. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about this. May God bless you and the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this episode, and frankly, even if you didn't, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give this video a thumbs up and tell your friends to subscribe. Please check out the official Star Wars Coffee merchandise, and don't forget to check out all of the content playlists on this channel, including The Rise of Skywalker, The Mandalorian, and much more.